I'll start. So today, we are going to present our ongoing research on negative double-edged constructions in Korean. Introduction. As noted by Chungs 2009, many languages, including Cantonese and Korean, employ so-called negative double-edged constructions, in which a double-edged expression is used to express the speaker's negative attitude toward the address's utterance. So for example, as we can see in the current examples, one, 미미가 뭐가 예쁘니, or 미미가 어디 예쁘니, or 미미가 어떻게 예쁘니. So here, all these sentences assert the same negative proposition that Mimi is not pretty. So here, as we can see, the double-edged phrase has no double-edged meaning, as in information-seeking double-edged questions, but functions as asserting the negation of the proposition in question. Before we proceed further, we would like to briefly mention two constructions that look similar but behave differently and double-edged constructions in terms of meaning and function. One is where the double-edged phrase "what" is used as an exclamative interjection in expressing the speaker's humble attitude. So, for example, in 3, 야, 너 대단하더라, and P, here, 뭘 그걸 가지고 그래, right here. And also the other is where the double-edged phrase "what" is used as a reason or causal double-edged agent expressing the speaker's emotional attitude. So for example, in 4A, 미미는 뭘 그렇게 일찍 떠났니? And B, 그 차는 뭐가 그렇게 비싸니? Here, since this double-edged phrase 뭘 or 뭐가 what receive Y-like interpretation, so it can be replaced by the regular double-edged agent 왜, which means Y here. So as we see here, these constructions must need to be differentiated from double-edged constructions we are considering here. Okay, so in this talk, we first investigate the grammatical properties of double-edged constructions while referring to interrogative and rhetorical double-edged questions. And then we draw generalizations for the license condition of the construction, and then we sketch a construction-based analysis. Okay, let's talk about similarities and differences between double-edged constructions and interrogative and rhetorical double-edged questions. In interrogative double-edged questions, double-edged phrases can be modified or paraphrased. So as we can see in 5A, 이것들 중 뭐가 예쁘니? Here, the double-edged phrase 뭐가, what, can be modified the expression 이것들 중, which means among these things here. And also in 5B, 뭐가 예쁘니? Here, the double-edged phrase can be paraphrased by the expression with 어떤 것이, which means which thing, like 어떤 것이 예쁘니. But as we can see in 6, double-edged phrases cannot be modified or paraphrased in the same way as original double-edged phrases. So in 6A, we cannot say 미미가 이것들 중 뭐가 예쁘니. So here, this expression cannot modify this double-edged phrase 뭐가, but. And also in 6B, 미미가 뭐가 예쁘니? Here, this double-edged phrase, 뭐가, cannot be replaced by the expression 어떤 것이, which means which thing here. Another difference is that unlike interrogative double-edged questions, double-edged constructions exhibit agent doubling, a phenomenon where a double-edged agent can co-occur with another agent of the same kind in the same clause. So in Korean, we can say like 7A, 내가 언제 1년 전에 그런 말을 했니? And also as in B, 우리가 어떻게 이 방법으로 돈을 벌 수 있니? And also in Cantonese and double-edged constructions, this agent doubling is also observed as in 8 here. So here, this double-edged where and another agent phrase here at left. Okay, here double-edged constructions share some properties with rhetorical double-edged questions, and it is known that rhetorical questions are interpreted as an assertion. And an assertion like 솔직히 말해서, which means honestly speaking, can be preceded to support the assertion. So for example, in 9, in Korean, 누가 오겠니? Here, this sentence asserts the proposition that no one will come. And also in 10, 솔직히 말해서 뭐가 문제니? This sentence means honestly speaking, nothing is a problem. So this sentence asserts the negative proposition. And also, as we have seen, double-edged constructions also convey assertions and also can appear with the expression 솔직히. So in 11, 솔직히 말해서 미미가 뭐가 예쁘니? So this sentence means, honestly speaking, Mimi is not pretty. But end-of-edge constructions also behave differently from rhetorical double-edge questions. For example, the rhetorical question in trap, 비가 이렇게 많이 오는데 누가 오겠니? Can be uttered in a discourse initial position or out of the blue. But the end-of-edge construction in 13, 비가 뭐가 오고 있니? This sentence cannot be used discourse initially because end-of-edge constructions are used to express disapproval toward the addressee. So they must be uttered after the addressee's words. So that's why they cannot be used discourse initially or out of the blue, unlike rhetorical questions. Okay, let's talk about some construction constraint of the construction NWHC. In the NWH phrase can only follow on NP, but not other phrasal types like adjective phrase or adverb phrase. So, for example, in 48, 매우 이기적인 미미가 뭐가 착하니? So in this case, the NWH phrase 뭐가 follows the NP, very selfish mimi here. But it cannot follow the adjective phrase 매우 이기적인, very selfish, as in B, and also it cannot follow the adverb phrase 매우, which means very here. And the NWH phrase needs to follow its associate NP. So in 15A, 미미가 뭐가 착하니? This sentence is okay, but in B, 뭐가 미미가 착하니? We think this sentence is ungrammatical because the NWH phrase cannot precede its associate NP here, 미미가. And also similarly in 16A, 자니 미미를 뭘 엄청 좋아하니? Here, so this is a grammatical sentence. But in B, 자니 뭘 미미를 엄청 좋아하니? So this is ungrammatical because also this NWH phrase cannot precede its associate NP, 미미를 here. Another constraint is that the associate NP and the NWH phrase must have a comparable case marking. So in 17A, here, this associate NP 미미가 has the nominative case. So the NWH phrase also has the nominative case, not the accusative case. And also here the NWH phrase has the nominative case. So its associate NP must have the nominative case here, 가. And also in this case, this nominative case can be dropped. So it means its associate NP can be a bare NP. And also in 18A, here NWH phrase mon has the accusative case. So its associate NP its associate NP has the accusative case, so this NWH phrase also must have the accusative case, not the nominative case. And also here, nominative case has the, NWH phrase has the accusative case, so its associate NP must have the accusative case. And also, this case can be dropped here, just saying 공부. And the case comparability condition is further observed in so-called multiple nominative constructions as in 19 or nominative object constructions as in 20. So in 19, here, 미미가 뭐가 손이 this WH phrase can be associated with this first nominative NP, 미미가, and also it can be associated with this second nominative NP, 손이. And also, as we can see in 20B here, 미미가 돈이 뭐가 많니? Here, this WH phrase is associated with this nominative object, NP, because these two expressions have the same case, accusative case, nominative case here. Another distribution constraint between the NWH phrase and its associate NP is that they must be adjacent. So they cannot be separated by an intervening adverb here. So in 21A, 버스가 뭐가 일찍 도착했니? This is okay, but here, 버스가 일찍 뭐가 도착했니? This is ungrammatical because this adverbial expression only cannot intervene between these two expressions here. And also in 22A, 미미가 공부를 뭘 매일 하니? This sentence is a well-formed sentence, but in B, 미미가 공부를 매일 뭘 하니? This is ungrammatical because also here, the adverbial expression 매일, every day, cannot intervene between the NWH phrase and its associate NP, 공부를 here, study. Another constraint is that the NWH phrase is only associated with the argumental NP. In Korean, floating numeral classifier or quantifiers are known as functioning as VP modifier. So in 23A, 사과가 작은 게 2개가 썩었다. This is a floating numeral quantifier or classifier. And as you can see here, this floating numeral classifier can modify the following VP, 써봤다 here. Then here we can expect that the NWH phrase cannot be associated with this floating numeral classifier because it is a VP modifier. And the expectation is borne out as we can see in 24. So here, 사과가 작은 게 두 개가 뭐가 썩으니, here, this sentence is ungrammatical because this NWH phrase, 뭐가, cannot be associated with this floating numeral classifier, which functions as a VP modifier in this sentence. But here, 사과 두 개가 뭐가 썩으니, this sentence is okay because in this case, this entire expression 사과 두 개가 functions as an argument subject. So this NWH phrase can be associated with this subject argument here. And also similarly, so 25a, B가 뭐가 2시간이 왔니? So here, this NWH phrase is associated with this subject argument, B가. But here, B가 2시간이 뭐가 왔니? This sentence is ungrammatical because the WH phrase is associated with this modifier expression, 2시간이. And the NWH phrase cannot be associated with an indefinite NP as it's indefinite NP. Sorry. So in 27a, 누군가가 뭐가 예쁘니? Or 28a, here, 미미가 누군가를 뭘 좋아하니? These two sentences are ungrammatical because the WH phrase associated with the indefinite NP here. Someone and something like that. Here. And also here, the NWH phrase cannot appear in an embedded clause. So in 29, 미미는 B가 뭐가 오는지 궁금했다. Or in B, 미미는 잔이 뭐가 간지 물었다. So these two sentences are ungrammatical because, as I said, NWH phrase cannot be appear within an embedded clause. So it means that the NWH construction is a root clause phenomena. Okay. Let's briefly talk about discuss Chungs analysis for Chinese NWH constructions here. Chung argues that the NWH construction has the following, has the three meaning components. The first meaning is not P here as an issue meaning. And the other two meanings are two different conditions. The first one is conflicting view condition, and the other is misconclusion condition. Here, conflicting view condition means that both the speaker and the addressee must have the opposing beliefs about the proposition in question. And the misconclusion condition means that even though the addressee has every reason to believe not P, she or he wrongly concludes P. And here he suggests that both the conditions are conventional in polyculture because they are not cancelable. So So the occurrence, for example, the occurrence of the NWHC in 31 is in Linguistics because here, as you can see, both the speaker and the addressee assert the same proposition here, that Chan is not a policeman here. This is violates the CVC. So this is ruled out. And also let's look at the example 32 here in the context where John has to cancel a Wednesday meeting before he had the chance to notify his team about the cancellation of the meeting. He runs into one of the team members, Mary, prior to the scheduled meeting. And Mary says, "Hey, John, we will have a meeting tomorrow. I look forward to it." And in this context, John cannot alert this NWH construction because in this context, the addressee Mary has every reason to believe P, namely that we will have a Wednesday meeting. So this violates this conclusion condition. So this is semantically ill-formed here. I'm gonna escape this one. Okay, so a construction-based analysis. So here we assume that the NWH construction is a special subtype of rhetorical question, which expresses an assertion of the opposite polarity of the proposition evoked from the suffix sentence form. And also we assume that the NWH construction is introduced as a way to synthetically mark polar questions as a rhetorical question, unlike ordinary questions that can be used as rhetorical questions through following intonation control. Uh, we assume that there are three different uses of double-edged phrases. First, in double-edged interrogatives, the double-edged phrase represents a parameter or a variable. So for example, the double-edged phrase who denotes a variable x such that x is a person in double-edged question. But in rhetorical double-edged questions, the double-edged phrase denotes an empty set. So for example, the double-edged phrase who it can be interpreted roughly as no one in rhetorical double-edged questions. And in double-edged constructions, we assume that the double-edged phrase denotes an assertion of the property, the positive polarity of the salient proposition evoked from the previous utterance here. So that asserts not P here. Based on this dialogue game board and question under discussion, we suggest the lexical information for and double-edged words in Korean in 30A here. So here, this lexical entry indicates that the double-edged word synthetically modifies indefinite independent polar question, and also it semantically functions as asserting the reverse property, the reverse polarity of the closed proposition P here, as is at each meaning. And this closed proposition is the silent utterance here, evoked from the previous discourse. So here, this analysis can predict the lexical specification can account for most of the distributional properties of the double-edged words, and the present analysis can. And so, as we have argued, the salient utterance needs to be a closed proposition. That's why a double-edged word cannot appear in a double-edged question denoting an open proposition. So in 39, 무엇이 뭐가 예쁘니? or in 미미가 뭐가 무엇이 많니? So these sentences are ungrammatical. So the present analysis can explain how the double-edged construction can convey a negative assertion. So for example, in 40, here, 미미가 예뻐, 미미 is pretty, and he says, 미미가 뭐가 예쁘니? This means 미미 is not pretty. So here, the silent utterance is the positive proposition that Mimi is pretty, which is evoked from this previous utterance. And the double-edged phrase functions to assert the reverse polarity of the salient proposition here. So not P. So this means that Mimi is not pretty here. And also here, 42A, 미미는 안 예뻐. Here this means Mimi is not pretty. And here B says, 미미가 뭐가 안 예쁘니? This means Mimi is pretty. So in this case, the salient terms is not P. So Mimi is not pretty, evoked from this A's terms. Mimi is not pretty. And the double-edged phrase functions to assert the reverse apart polarity or polarity over the proposition here. So not P. So this means that because of this double negation, we can get a positive assertion. Mimi is pretty here. Unlike the Chungs argument, we suggest that both conditions, CVC and MCC, these conclusion conditions can be cancelled in Korean. So in 44A, 자는 안 착해, and B says, 걔가 뭐가 착하겠니? 하는 행동을 봐. This means he is not honest. Look at his behavior. So here, both the speaker and the address assert the same proposition that John is not honest here. So you can see that the CVC, conflicting view condition, can be cancelled in Korean. And also the MCC, misconclusion condition, can be cancelled in Korean. So here A says, 미미가 우리 반에서 제일 예뻐. Mimi is the most pretty girl in our class. And B says, 미미가 뭐가 제일 예쁘니? No way is Mimi the most pretty girl in our class. And A says, 아니야, 내 생각에는 미미가 제일 예뻐. Which means, no, I think or I believe that Mimi is the most pretty girl in our class. So here, as you can see, the addressee A has every reason to believe P, namely that Mimi is the most pretty girl in her class. So this data means that this conclusion condition can be cancelled. So this data implies that Chungs two conditions are not conventional in polyculture, but conversational in polyculture, as in rhetorical questions. This also supports our suggestion that end-of-range constructions are a special type of rhetorical questions. So in Korean, a conclusion, so in Korean, end-of-range constructions display both similar and different grammatical properties from interrogative and rhetorical double-edged questions. And we have argued that construction as a special subtype of rhetorical question has its own constructional constraint. And in particular, we suggest that its key function is to synthetically mark a polar question as a rhetorical question without using a special intonation contour. And also, we argue that NWHs are employed as a grammatical marking to achieve polarity reversal effects in polar questions. Okay, thank you.